All right, welcome. Today, we're going to put on our physicist hats and take a look at a really fascinating and, let's be honest, highly unconventional mathematical framework. Now, I want to be super clear from the get-go. This model is way outside of mainstream physics. But our goal here isn't to validate it. It's to kind of suspend disbelief for a bit and just analyze the internal logic of a system that claims there's a deep numerical structure to reality itself. The source material makes some really bold claims, so let's examine the mechanics it lays out. Our whole investigation starts right here, with this one number. According to this theory, 17,712 is not just some random number. It's supposed to be the master harmonic volume of a universal system. The source even goes so far as to claim that this is the exact number of topological signatures you'd find in quantum experiments that involve these complex, 48-dimensional light structures. Again, we're not here to verify that claim, but to understand the system that's built on top of it. And that really is the central question, isn't it? The theory suggests that the number 17,712 isn't just a quantity, it's an engine. And its factors, well, those are the gears that actually construct our conscious experience. It's a pretty wild idea, and it means we have to first understand its unique language. Okay, let's dive into this. So, how is this so-called engine supposed to work? Well, the theory claims it runs on a very unique and consistent set of rules, its own kind of arithmetic. So to see if this whole machine holds together, we've got to look at the math that builds it first. The main tool here is something the source calls vortex math. Now, if you're familiar with numerology, you'll recognize this. It's basically just calculating a digital root. The process is really simple. You take any number and you sum its digits. If that sum is still more than one digit, you just do it again. And you keep going until you're left with a single digit. That final number, that's its vortex equivalent. Let's walk through a real example from the system. We'll use the harmonic number 1,968. So first we add up the digits. 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 8, that gets us 24. Okay, 24 has two digits, so we repeat the process. 2 plus 4 equals 6. And there you have it. In this mathematical system, the vortex number for 1,968 is 6. This whole reduction process is the absolute key to how this entire framework operates. Right at the heart of this system, you've got what it calls a trinity of forces, and they're all derived by dividing our master number, 17,712. If you divide it by 8, you get the harmonic for alpha, which is described as an expansionary force. Divided by 2, you get the mirror, a point of inversion, and dividing by 4 gives you the harmonic for omega, a refining, sort of contractive force. The model says these aren't three separate powers, but actually one single bidirectional cosmic breath. So this cosmic breath then creates what the theory calls the four rooms of reality. You can think of these as standing waves that are generated by dividing that master number by these core divisors, 3, 6, 9, and 12. Now, what's really interesting here is how the theory basically stratifies existence into these distinct domains. You've got physical matter in room 1, time and choice in room 2, a sort of fixed spiritual path in room 3, and then a collective consciousness in room 4. So what holds this whole nested doll of a structure together? Well, the model says there's a central singularity it calls the master doll. And this isn't another room, it's more like the fulcrum, the point of perfect tension where that trinity and the four rooms are all held in perfect balance. It's described as the true seat of consciousness, the point from which the pilot of this whole system is meant to operate. Okay, now we're going to pivot to what is probably the most provocative part of this whole theory. It proposes that inside this perfectly structured mathematical system, there's a deliberate anomaly, a glitch, that is actually the system's most important feature. And this is where the mechanics of free will are supposed to come from. Remember that vortex math we talked about? Well, if we apply it to the harmonic numbers for those rooms we just saw, a really clear pattern emerges. The numbers for flesh, choice, and spirit, that's 3 of the 4 rooms, they all reduce down to the number 9. And within this system's logic, 9 represents the still point. It's completion, resolution, the source. It's the expected stable outcome. But the soul room, it breaks the pattern. And this is where the core paradox of the model just brilliantly comes to life. See, the divisor for the soul room is 9, the symbol of stillness itself. So logically, you'd think its vortex number would also be 9, right? But it's not. Its harmonic, 1,968, actually resolves to a 6, the system's symbol for movement, for torque, for restlessness. It's like you're using the key for stillness, and you end up unlocking pure motion.
The source material is really, really clear on this point. This mathematical quirk isn't a mistake in the model. It is the model's entire purpose. It's a fundamental, intentional part of the design. A wink in the arithmetic, as the text puts it. This is what the theory calls the 9 to 6 inversion, and it claims this is the mechanical origin of free will. So the crucial point is, this isn't a bug, it's a feature. See, if the soul room resolved to 9, it would just be complete, static. But by resolving to 6, it becomes an engine. This intentional imbalance creates the friction, the torque, that allows a consciousness, the pilot, to actually get in there and steer. Okay, so we have a mathematical engine and a deliberate glitch that supposedly creates free will. But the theory doesn't just stay in the abstract. It actually tries to ground this whole framework in something very tangible, the calibration of time itself. The basis for this whole connection is the lunar year. The model starts with a 364-day cycle, which, you'll notice, is 52 perfect weeks of 7 days. It then suggests there's a link between the celestial rhythm and that abstract 48-dimensional space we mentioned way back at the beginning. So, when you multiply the system's 48 dimensions by the 364 days of this ideal lunar year, you get 17,472. Now that is incredibly close to the master harmonic of 17,712. But it's not quite there. It falls short, and that creates a math problem that the model has to solve. That calculation leaves us with a gap of 240 units. And for a system that claims to be built on mathematical perfection, a discrepancy like that is a pretty big deal. So the question is, how does the theory explain this apparent flaw and bridge that gap to get to the master harmonic? The solution, according to the source, is found in 5 days of rest. These are presented as absolutely necessary calibration points to stop the lunar pulse from drifting out of sync with the slightly longer solar orbit that we experience. The theory even directly connects this to ancient traditions of the Sabbath, these periods of stillness that were required for the system to reset itself. So, when these 5 days are each given that same 48-dimensional value, they add exactly 240 units to the total. So you take the base lunar calculation of 17,472, you add the 240 from these days of rest, and bingo, 17,712. With that one addition, the math closes perfectly, and the calendar calculation aligns exactly with the master harmonic. The model presents this not just as a neat trick, but as a mechanical necessity. It contrasts its self-correcting system with our modern calendars, which need things like leap days to fix that gradual drift. These 5 rest days are framed as the built-in architecture that keeps the entire toroidal engine perfectly tuned and in sync with its environment. So we've now gone through and analyzed the mechanics of the system as it's been presented. We've seen the arithmetic, the architecture, the trinity, the 4 rooms, and how it all gets grounded in a calibrated calendar. We've seen the how. The theory concludes by shifting its focus to the why of the human experience inside this whole structure. And this is the final, provocative question the source material leaves us with. If this complex architecture really exists, with its intentional 9 to 6 inversion designed specifically to create a pilot who has the ability to steer, why do so few of us ever seem to actually take the controls? The model's answer is that the system doesn't make you do it, it only gives you the potential. So the ultimate takeaway from this whole framework isn't about cosmic destiny, it's about the friction that's inherent in conscious choice, a mathematical glitch that, according to this theory, is the entire reason we're even here.